Hey, what's going on guys? It's Jonathan and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be continuing on the new Battle of the Portrait series with two new phones. This time it's the Huawei Mate 10 versus the Galaxy Note 8. But before we get into that, we had to make a few changes to this series based on feedback from you guys. So you guys didn't like me using Phil, and it really crushed him when I had to break the news to him that I was cutting him loose and of course ultimately firing him. But man, you should have saw the look on his face when I did it. So now that Phil is out, we're gonna be using live subjects, like me, since that's what portrait mode was made for. So hopefully we're gonna get a little bit better results, and that's how we're gonna do this contest moving forward. If it ends up making that big of a difference, we can go back and revisit the first video and reshoot it with these new changes. Of course, the winner of this round will move on to the next round and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this. Let's get spexy. The Huawei Mate 10 is rocking a dual camera system. We have a 20 megapixel monochrome sensor and a 12 megapixel RGB sensor. Both have an aperture of f1.6. Now that's bright. On the front side, the Huawei Mate 10 is rocking an 8 megapixel front facing camera with an aperture of f2.0. The Galaxy Note 8 also uses a dual camera system. We have dual 12 megapixel cameras. One is a telephoto, one is a wide angle. The telephoto lens has an aperture of f2.4. The wide angle has an aperture of f1.7. Still a pretty bright aperture. Not that bright. On the front, we have an 8 megapixel front facing camera with an aperture of f1.7. So that's enough of the specs. Let's go ahead and dive into the actual meat and potatoes of this video and see how well each performed. So here we have the first set of images, and before I analyze them, I just want to note that we are only looking at how well the phones can produce a portrait style photo, not necessarily the image quality. Also, the Note 8 is like the iPhone 10 in the sense that it is much more difficult to use. It requires a specific distance and lighting in order to even get a live focus photo. That being said, looking at these first two images, you can see both did a fantastic job. Off first glance, I would give it to the Mate 10 in an instant. But looking at the images a little bit closer, you can see the Mate 10 actually messed up right behind my dog, Chewbacca's right ear. You can see that it actually thought the brown checker in the pillow was part of the dog. It's a mistake that is completely understandable. However, looking at the Note 8 image, I see no imperfections in terms of background subject separation. In these next images, both images look pretty meh. On a closer inspection, you can see both removed the right portion of my glasses and neither was able to determine the background from subject in the gaps of my arms. The Mate 10 actually distorted the left portion of my head, creating a funky outline. The Note 8 did not do much better, but in terms of determining subject from background, it had less errors. These were some of my favorite shots of the day. Again, on first glance, the Mate 10 looks to be a much better photo, but on close inspection, you can see it blurred out part of my head, left arm near my elbow, and my right wrist. It also failed to blur the background in the small gap between my right arm and torso. The Note 8 was far from perfect since it also failed to blur the background in the same location and also had a tough time with my left arm and elbow. Between the two, the Note 8 definitely looks better on close inspection. Here you can see nearly immediately the Note 8 failed to blur the background between my left arm and torso. Both phones messed up on the left side of my glasses, but this seems to be a reoccurring issue. The background separation on the Mate 10 also seems much more prominent, and I feel it did a better job. Again, with these two photos, the Note 8 failed to blur out the portion between my arms and torso while the Mate 10 nailed it. The Mate 10 also did a much better job at separating the subject from the background in a DSLR style with subtle bokeh roll-off. These two were some of the hardest images to pick from. The Mate 10 truly looks the best in my personal opinion. I love the 3D look of the image and the natural bokeh roll-off that occurs down my pant leg. However, on super close inspection, it did this weird silhouette thing to my left arm and shoulder. Surprisingly, both phones did a fantastic job with my glasses, and as much as I looked for an error with the Note 8, I just could not find one. That being said, because of the weird shoulder thing the Mate 10 did, I'm gonna have to give this one to the Note 8. Moving on to a few selfies, with this one having an extremely bright background. The Note 8 failed to differentiate the subject from the entire background by keeping part of the white structure on my left side completely in focus. The Mate 10 had no issues whatsoever. Both phones performed nearly perfect in these shots, and I really had to get picky. It came down to Boca Rendition and which one I personally preferred. The Note 8 actually produced much more pleasing bokeh balls in the background, creating a very realistic DSLR-like image. The Mate 10 looks really good, however, it appears to look more processed versus subtle bokeh roll-off of the Note 8, which can be seen moving from my left to right shoulder. In this last picture, the Mate 10 killed it. The bokeh roll-off is fantastic, and it produced natural-looking bokeh balls in the trees and on the cars in the background. Both phones had issues with background separation under my arms, but ultimately, I love the way the Mate 10 came out between these two. In this episode of Battle of the Portraits, the winner is the Galaxy Note 8 with a 6-3 victory over the Mate 10. This battle was much harder than I ever imagined, and I'm glad I put these devices up against each other. They were pretty even. The Note 8 will be moving forward onto the next round, and a huge hat off to Huawei for the incredible fight the Mate 10 put up. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and drop that thumbs up as it does help out the channel. If you have any questions or if you want me to change up some things, leave them down below in a comment as I would love to hear back from you. If you really want to get in touch with me, hit me up on social as I do respond faster there. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. If you're not new here, turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when that content drops. And yeah, make sure you're following the series if you like it because it's pretty awesome. And I'll talk to you in the next one.